I know even in the notion of like strong women intimidating weak men, you don't have a wife that's like a little punk pushover wife. My Tay is a leader. She's smart. She's she's driven. But you know, she's also godly. She's sweet. She's cool. She's funny. All those are different things. And so, in your experiences and your knowledge, just being a husband, a man of God, father, all of that, what are your thoughts in the whole notion of strong women intimidating weak men?
Shoot, I mean, I believe it's a real thing.
Hmm.
I think it's more it comes from a selfish place, and in our singleness, I believe that we don't realize how just on both sides of the spectrum, how selfish we are, in our temperaments or just in our personalities. So, so like for me, uh, my temperament, I'm pretty chill. I'm like super, but I gotta say me. So
Oh
I
no, no,
ain't
you a savage. Yeah, you ain't no chump. Yeah, you ain't no chump. You just chill.
I'm super chill, but I got a savage in me. But on the outside, somebody like my wife would appear to be like super dominant and super strong. And to be honest, like in the beginning, and I believe I probably shared this before, like in the beginning of our relationship, um, we clashed like heavily because me being from Texas and her being from New York, the Bronx, being Dominican,
Yeah,
she got pigs playing against her. Well, not playing against her in a negative way, but
yeah,
that's who she is, and her temperament is like very like straightforward and very cutthroat. And um, to me, her normal was like mad disrespectful, and I could have allowed like her temperament to intimidate me and not cause me to like pursue her anymore. But it was a place where I guess where we had to have a mutual understanding about who we are because we were on the far end of each spectrum. So I was on the far end of like being super laid back, and she
yeah.
was on the far end of being like too turned up. So we we like no lie we got premarital counseling before we actually got married or even was thinking about even getting engaged because we wasn't even gonna make it past the dating phase uh, in that because it was just so drastic and that just goes back to what I've said about the selfishness in strong women intimidating. It's not an issue with women being strong. It's just that when you go into a relationship, whatever you don't know your extreme until you meet somebody else who you invite into that intimate space. So
Yeah.
uh, it was us realizing that all right, we're realizing our extremes and putting in the work to meet in the middle so that the worst of us or that extreme um, didn't overwhelm what could have been, which is what we have now. So, and I think that applies for just about everybody in relationships because we all have some type. We everybody single is selfish, whether we admit it or not. You don't realize how selfish you are until you get into a relationship and you having to share a lot of your mental space with somebody else whose life is completely different than yours, and lots of time we get into that you don't you don't realize it at the beginning because you're dating your representative their
Yeah.
representative. So you thinking that everything is all lovey-dovey, but then as time progresses and that facade start to wear off and you actually like see who that person really is, then you get to see like the I want to say the worst of I would just use the word the extreme. You see the extreme for this particular case. We're talking about those women who are more more strong-minded, who are go-getters, who are I would say who are more assertive than they are passive. So the solution to that, I mean, there's a solution to it. It's just a matter of meeting in the middle with the person that you're with, and because it just you have to let go of that single mind in order to become one in mind. And that's a process. That's something that happens like throughout time. It's not like it happens instantly or you snap it on and snap it off because look at my take talking about I'm fine.
Yo, bro, I at first I didn't look at the name. I was about to be like, yo, chill out. Like he made me and I realized it's my take. I was like, yo, you better chill out trying to break up a happy home.
Oh, this live. Nah, but it's something that you have to continue to work through. And if you're not careful, it'll still creep up on you even after you feel like you've overcome that thing. So like even now to this day, like Mate might get to an extreme of where she extra turned up, and I got to look at her like, hey, you better pipe down, or or I might get back to that extreme where I'm like too chill, and she like, hey, you need to do something. I'm over here doing everything, so it's just a matter of reminding yourself of that middle that you're meeting in and becoming one. So
I like that, like both things you just said about really, especially the part about her being like, yo, like you need to do something or whatever. Because I mean, even in discussion, sometimes some of the women that I've been seeing were saying that in some of their experiences, they're like, oh well, I feel like I have to do everything because I don't see the guy doing very much, which is a very real thing. Like even in one of the scriptures I used earlier was talking about like in Judges with Deborah, where you know that man was supposed to get the glory for killing that king, but because he wasn't stepping up, God decided to give it to a woman instead, and a woman got the glory instead for that. And
mhm,
how in that example, just similar kind of like what you just said with Mate, like in that example, we see a woman giving the man the opportunity. She's telling him like, yo, you are called to do this. But of course,
mhm.
if he doesn't do it, then it's like, okay, she's gonna have to step up and do it herself then. But there's still that communication that happens there where it's like, you know, your woman is like, she calling you out, but she's calling you out for you to step up and still be the dude and still handle your business.
hmm and also I would say even in that it's like I think there's a balancing act that God graciously does in a way that we can't even like plan or intend some because we are human and we do fall short in different areas and we do drift off as good as we think our efforts are. We do fall short, especially like men. We always for a lot of men we're in this grind mode and it's work, 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 and we're trying to build and we're trying to build. And we can get so caught up in building what we have for ourselves that we ignore everything else that God has given us to steward. So those things fall, but then He reminds us uh, through some type of discomfort and where it checks us and lets us know whether that's through your spouse or through something else failing in your life where it's like yeah you all right, let's get you back in balance. I'm about to let me drop this little thing in you. Let me make you let me make you uncomfortable. Let me check you in a way that's going to get your attention.
Yeah, that's super fire. What trying to think. Oh yeah, oh my take can cook too though. Don't get it twisted. My take can do her thing.
She do
Yeah,
she does.
somebody.
For these women that's on there who feel that they're like that strong woman type personality, and you feel that you don't have to uh, let your guard down enough to allow a man to like love you or lead, and where he has to like uh, elevate himself to where you are, you might be missing out on some blessings because on some blessings in that area. Because when you do get, not to say that you shouldn't have standards, but don't have a wall so thick up that you don't allow yourself to grow with the person as well. Because on the opposite side, a man has expectations as well, and everything that you have an understanding that as you're growing to know this one person that you're going to grow together to that space to where they can learn you and you can learn them and you can be the best that you can be for one another.
That's good. That's gonna bless a lot of folks.
I see. I'm gonna pull this question up. This on here. There's a few questions, but this one stuck out to me. How do you prepare yourself for a relationship if you desire one?
Shoot. I think one of the things, man, that's it's. I don't want to say it's hard because you can read a lot of books and you can study and you can listen to you can listen and go to conferences and everything, all kind of relationship things, but you won't actually all of that stuff will be theory. The best way to learn it is practicing. So is getting into one. Of course, now if you've got some serious issues about yourself and you know that you have a lot of trauma or hurt and different things that you might need some counseling and get yourself together on that counseling tip or just find some healing. But the best way of knowing that you're prepared is to actually get into a relationship and do it. And I think the one issue that we have in the church is we think that just because you get into a relationship with somebody that you got to marry them and or
Yeah,
you like stuck with that person. And I think that's like that's very toxic and wrong because it causes us not to want to date or not to want to get to know somebody on that level. And when we do that, we we actually force people into a lot of relationships and things that are ungodly, and they actually they go through with them because they feel the shame or embarrassment of breaking up or saying, you know
yeah,
what, this won't work for me. But we have to get out of that mindset and be okay with saying, hey, let me give this person a chance, and being okay with saying, you know what, I gave it a chance, it didn't work, I'm going to move on because I know that my life will be much better and their life will be much better if we do not continue this together. So
that's super good. That's really good. And I know I saw a post recently talking about that, just expressing how, if your relationship doesn't work, that's not a failure.
mm,
Like, that doesn't mean you failed if your Christian relationship didn't work out. Like the whole goal is that you're dating the person to see, hey, are we good? Are we suitable? Are we compatible for marriage? And
mm-hmm,
if it didn't work out, all that means is the answer was no. We
yep,
investigated, we looked into it, it didn't work out. It's that simple. And yet people do feel as if like they're shamed in a way, like they failed or they messed up or they did something wrong,
mm-hmm,
when in reality they just realize what the case was for them. You said something that made me think to you said something that kind of made me think of a question that I saw someone bring up before. I've been speaking a lot lately about, just about the marriage rates in our community, and about people passing up on really good options, or people trying to stay single until whenever they're like, oh, I'm just chilling in my singleness and waiting until,
they
you
and
know,
they feel talking about I'm in my single season,
yeah, and that season lasts super long, and
like
then
with that.
yeah, then they look up, and it's just like now they not popping no more. It's like you ain't cute no more. Like you was popping back in the day. You ain't popping no. You thought you was gonna be popping forever. No, you not.
Look, you got 3 kids with 7 daddies.
That math don't even work.
Nobody want that no more. No, I'm kidding.
But you made a good point, because someone brought up a valid point when they were saying like, hey, sometimes like encouraging people towards like relationships, marriage, things like that. Sometimes it can make people stay in toxic relationships because they're thinking, oh my gosh, well if there aren't, if the marriage rates are so bad or the relationship rates are so bad, then I'm gonna just stay in this toxic situation because
Mm-hmm.
the best thing that I'm gonna get. How do you as a married man who clearly y'all went through some stuff, um, how do you know the difference between, what's some advice you can give for knowing the difference between, okay, this woman and I are going through some things, I have some growing to do, she has some growing to do, we're butting heads, but we're gonna like press through this, versus, oh hell no, this way too toxic. this too much. This is
Hey,
just too much.
so well, it's a few things. Some toxic is abusive toxic,
Yeah.
uh, and I think you have to be able to identify abuse in a person, whether that's excessive verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and different things. And that wasn't none of the things that we were experiencing. It was more so in communication, and it was more so communication. It wasn't like an abuse or disrespect. It was like, now we clashing because we don't know each other, and we trying to be all lovey dovey and in each other's space, but we don't want to change to meet in the middle, or to kind of become one in who we are. So so I think in relationships you can tell the difference between like uh healthy healthy what would say healthy conflict versus unhealthy conflict, because like as friends we have healthy conflict where we disagree, and through conversation we come to some type of and we come to some type of place where we can reason and grow together, or just with like relationships, or like familiar relationships with your parents or your brothers and sisters. Like I would say a lot of that is healthy conflict. Now there are some crazy, like some toxic conflict within like families, but I think with wisdom you can be able to identify the difference between like healthy conflict and unhealthy, or something that's toxic, because of because of how it's coming off. Like some people are legit being manipulated in relationships. Some people are legit like being physically abused. Some people are being talked about and talked down and made to feel less than they are. Some people are just cursing their spouses, or the girls or the dudes and stuff. Some people are just, there's a lot of wicked things, but you can, for the most part, you can identify those. The difference is like your willingness or the strength that you have to leave when you see those signs. And it's not a fault to a person who stays whenever they're trapped into that place. It's just that there's a difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, like just a difference between like friction.
Mm-hmm.
We're having friction because we're two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Even sometimes in the midst of that friction, we're human, we're flesh, we're sinful. So I might say something that I shouldn't have said, or
Mm-hmm.
that I shouldn't have done it. And there's a difference between like friction and just I'm just a toxic person. And every time we get into a situation or scenario, I'm trying to hurt you. I'm trying to
Yeah.
take.
It's the blame game. It's never my fault. It's
Yeah,
always you. It's well, why didn't you do this and all of this and that. Is you can tell the difference. Well, when you're on the outside, you can definitely tell the difference. But there's a you just have to be prayerful and ask God for wisdom, and like being able to identify like what's healthy and what's not, because there's a difference between like temperaments, you being your personalities being different versus like somebody straight up manipulating you.
that's good. I'm here for that. That's good right there.